Hey guys, it's your girl Eda. Aside from being the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast host, I am a legal consultant, author, and advocate for change within the legal industry. Every episode, we dive deep into the tools, strategies, and real world insights you need to succeed, featuring inspiring guests and topics that matter most to the modern legal profession. So, if you find value in these conversations, be sure to subscribe to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast and download our episodes for your commute, coffee break, or brainstorming session. And if you know someone who could benefit, don't forget to send them our way. Referrals are always welcome. Let's create a stronger, more empowered legal industry together. In this episode, I get to speak with Heather Reese, a dynamic Latina personal injury lawyer and model who champions minority representation while mentoring the next generation. Get ready for a sassy ride into how she harmonizes a fulfilling career with a vibrant personal life. Listen in for more. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. Today, I have Heather Reese with me on this episode. We're going to be talking about courage and all the things in between our career and our personal life and how we can embrace our creativity and pretty much get to the next chapter or the next journey, however you want to look at it. But without further ado, let's talk about Heather as a person first before we get into all the skills and advice and tips. So, Heather, you and I met at an event in Miami for Lawyer Stories. So shout out to Lawyer Stories for connecting us. And basically we hit it off because you had this amazing red coat on and I'm all about red. And I said, I need to talk to her. I don't care who she is. I need to talk to her. I need to see who this person is. I'm loving her vibe. And we ended up talking like half of the night. So here we are, reunited virtually. Are you in New York or Jersey?
Philly.
Oh, Philly. Oh, wrong one. Totally wrong one.
No, I go to New York every weekend, so I'm in New York a lot.
I love it. Yeah, so let's talk about you and basically how you ended up being the brandpreneur is how I like to call it, of all things. I just saw you in La Chingona. I love it. It was amazing. I mean, you're just like all things. If you're not following her, you have to follow her on Instagram. I'll leave the handle in the description for you guys. But she's just an amazing person. She's a whole talk about branding. So talk about you.
Thank you. That was so nice, and I do love Benny. His events are always great, and I was so grateful to be able to meet you. Yeah, so I think I try to fight the narrative and the mindset that lawyers can only just be one thing, and that is like a boring old person. Um, I always said I'm gonna do this job, but I'm gonna do it as myself. And I think the beautiful thing is that when you get to embrace all of the amazing parts of you, you know, your culture, your hobbies, the things that you enjoy, it makes work seem a little bit less like work. I think I've seen so many of my friends burn out because they live, eat, and breathe the law. And I always said I didn't want to burn out in my 30s. And how can I not do that? And I think what I have found is it's by making sure that I still fill my cup in other ways and never lose sight of who I am and all of the things that I love about myself.
I love that. And I think another thing is the awareness of that, right? Because sometimes we do get lost in translation and we let society provide those labels to us, right? And so we eat up those labels and we identify ourselves with those labels. But sometimes those labels are not quite right, right? And sometimes we don't really fit that mold and we're meant to think outside the box. So think outside the box. You are a model, which is why you travel to New York constantly. You're also a brand awareness, I guess. You know, you love to promote other, Hispanics and Latinas, products and things like that. And I love that about you because small businesses need all the help they can get at this point, especially when they're competing with big stores and big brands. So talk about how you got into all of that that I just mentioned.
Yeah, so everything started from threads. I put a thread last year that I wanted to promote small businesses, like small Latino owned businesses for Hispanic Heritage Month. And I thought like five people would respond, and like hundreds of people responded. And it kind of spiraled into something that I never thought it would be. I was very shocked at all the people that wanted to work with me and that were willing to work with me. It was really a passion project that got grown out of me looking around and seeing that there was no real visibility for Latinas in law. Latinas make up 2.5% of lawyers in America. And I said, that's simply not enough. And then I said, where else are we underrepresented? And I saw that we were underrepresented in almost every field, business and industry. And I said, that really doesn't make any sense because we are the highest purchasing power currently. So how can that be how can that be the answer? So I said, well, what can I do as just, an everyday Latina gal, to help build visibility? So I always said my series is not about selling you the product. It's about letting you know that it's there. I don't say that this is the best skincare in the world. I don't say that this is the most pigmented eyeshadow. I just say I want you to know that this is an option. And for me, that's what it's about. It's about creating visibility. I'm adopted, and I'm adopted from Peru, and this series has really been a love letter to my community. Um, just to kind of say that I know that I've grown up in a life of privilege, and I know that that isn't the case for a lot of Latinas, and I want to do what I can to use my privilege and my voice in a way that helps promote the community.
I love that. And I love that you share that, right? A lot of people wouldn't be, I guess, brave or courageous enough to share something like that so openly and so willingly, which is another thing I loved about you. You're like, oh, by the way, I'm adopted. Like, mic drop. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it now. No, I'm kidding. And I love that you tackled such a community that is very impactful through everything, right? Not just purchase, voting. We have so much power, and yet we feel powerless. So I always, I just never really grasped that idea of why. And, it has a lot to do with society and how we're treated and how we're not welcomed or welcomed, depending on where you're at in the world. I mean, I grew up in Miami, so we are who we are. This is our community. Like, if you don't speak Spanish, I hear all this all the time from the tourists. They're like, wait, I thought I was still in America. I'm like, no, sweetie, you're in Miami. It's a whole different animal. Like, you're not, if you don't speak Spanish, you're lost. And that's one of the things that I enjoyed, embracing all different types of culture. Because it's not just like one Hispanic, we have so many cultures there, and we have so many festivals that come there, so to celebrate that and that diversity. And me personally, growing up in that, I never realized that there are other parts of this nation that are not like that, that are completely opposite, that don't see life as embracing and walking the streets and listening to multiple languages and seeing multiple flags and cultures. And that was my jam. I loved it. That's what got me into arts and music and dancing. And much like you, is what I still do. That's my creative avenue. That's what I tap into, in my community, especially in Miami. Anyway, I love that about you. So let's talk about Fashion Week, because you told me about it, and I was like, wait, what? Like, nobody just goes to Fashion Week. Like, what's going on there?
Yeah, so my goal has always been to be able to walk New York Fashion Week show. And I am hoping that happens in the next few years. I think that um, being Latina and being plus size, a lot of people see Latinas in one light, right? I'm supposed to fit one mold, one narrative, one body, and I don't have that. And I think for me, it's always been the reason I went into modeling, the reason I went into really pushing myself out there is that I wanted other people to see that beauty comes in all shapes and sizes, and Latinas come in all shapes and sizes. And, I'm 5'2" in a size like 22, 24. And that's not normally what you see strutting down the runway. And I got my first runway gig from Crusades of Curves, which is an amazing, amazing organization slash um, like modeling agency group. I don't even know what she is, but her name's Mal, and she runs it, and she's just an angel. She's everything. She gave it to me based off of a thread. She had made a thread like looking for models on the East Coast, and I said, hey, I'm not a formal model. I'd love to be considered. She was like, well, lucky for you. We love to work with new people. Send us a walking video. And I said to my paralegal at the time, I was at work, it was like 6 a.m. when I got the message. I was like, I need you to film me walking down this hallway right now. And it was actually Lauren who came with me to the event in Miami. And I said, I need you to film me. We got to walk. I got to walk down. And she was like, okay. And I sent it in, and Mal was like, you're booked. And I got to walk my first runway in September of last year. And it was the greatest experience of my life. I got to meet so many amazing models and so many amazing people. And from that have come so many amazing collaborations. I've gotten to do content shoots for people. I've got to do other modeling gigs. It's really been an amazing adventure that I didn't know if I would be able to ever go on. It's not that I ever thought that I wasn't model material. It's just that I didn't know if it was going to happen for me in this life. So I was really grateful that it was able to happen for me, and that it's happening for me, and that all of these amazing things have come from people saying yes when I've said, I want to try this. I want to put myself out there. I'm going to shoot my shot. And I can't stress enough, ask for it and see if somebody's going to tell you no, because living in fear and being afraid to ask is what prevents you from being able to get any kind of um, amazing things in the future.
I feel like this is a common thread in my life right now since January of this year. I've been meeting people like you that are outside the box, but there is one common thread that kind of puts us all that together. Like things just don't happen. We have to go for it. We have to seek it. We have to create opportunities because we're not just going to sit here and wait for opportunities to come to us. That's just not how life is most of the time. And it's funny enough, I'm actually going to be speaking about that this Friday in front of the San Diego Paralegal Association. So like I said,
Congratulations.
thank you, but it's been like the common thread of everything. Like this past Saturday, I was at a personal injury summit. We spoke about networking, but it's the same thing. Networking, that's how we met, right? We were at a networking event. And so it's like networking is way beyond, it's cultivating conversations and connections and really enhancing those opportunities, right? And so people don't see it that way. And it's really funny to see how different mindsets interact, right? Like I was looking at this room as I'm talking, and it was me and another co-speaker, and we did like a whole little skit to get everybody's, like it's 9 o'clock in the morning, people are barely up, we got to get them up and running. Like she's Italian from Brooklyn, I'm Puerto Rican and loud. Like we were just going to make it happen. And we made them laugh. And we were there for 45 minutes, but it felt like 10 minutes, which is what everybody said. They're like, we could have listened to you all day. And that's kind of like the energy that we like to bring in all our platforms, right? That's why I don't do a Q&A session. I don't sit here and ask you a whole bunch of questions and then I just say, okay, yeah, next one, right? It's not me, it's not who I am. Authenticity has a lot to do with it as well. Like being yourself, staying in your lane doesn't mean that you have to be that narrow-minded. It just means like, where is your lane? Find your lane, walk that runway, walk that road. Like understand and navigate through all those little intricacies are probably the best things that you can possibly do. And I feel like we love to complain. I don't know if you feel the same way, but a lot of people just sit there and complain about their life, about how this, about that, and how burnt out they are, and anxiety, and this and that, when there's so many things that you can do to really, really get out of that mindset. So I don't know. What do you think about that? I hope you're enjoying this podcast episode so far, as this podcast is just the beginning. At Eda Rosa LLC, we specialize in helping law firms and legal teams thrive with tailored staff training, operations management, and team building solutions. Whether you're looking to streamline your practice or elevate your team's potential, we're here to help. So visit www.edarosallc.com. That's www.edarosallc.com.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you kind of you kind of have to go for the things that you want, and wallowing and kind of accepting something is a way of being like stagnant. And I kind of always said to myself, I don't want to be stagnant, right? I want to continue to progress and move and grow, and you can't really do that in accepting or settling for what you think is okay, right? I always tell my friends, like, strive for more than what you expect, because I think when you do that, you set your standards high enough that you're willing to push more, you're willing to try more, you're willing to ask for more. Because 10 times, like 9 times out of 10, when you ask for more, you're going to get more. And I think that that's the biggest thing. But I think it is a hard thing for a lot of people to do because they feel so comfortable in um, conforming and doing what everybody else does. And that's just such a dangerous thing because, like I said, it leads to stagnant behavior and it leads to like just kind of accepting what is instead of questioning what could be.
I see that a lot, especially in our older generations now, the unfulfillment, the what ifs, the what if I would have done this or what if I would have done that. And it's still not that late. Like I've seen, 80, 90-year olds traveling the world, backpacking. Like age is nothing but a number. I feel like it's mostly just your mindset and where you're at and how you feel, right? Because one thing I've learned in this lifetime is that your mind creates everything. It creates your health, it creates your reality, it creates whether or not you're gonna wake up the next day. Really understanding that this is your time to shine anytime in your life and really taking it and striding with it, I feel is what a lot of people don't understand, right? It's really important for you to um, get out of that mindset. And another thing, just like my little tidbit, is whoever you surround yourself with, right? You're only as good as the five people around you. And that is so accurate. I see it in so many people, how different they've become, whether it was good, bad, or indifferent, but it has a lot to do with the people that are there around. So, like, if you're an ambitious, motivated person, you want an ambitious, motivated person, or probably even more than you. If you're energetic, you want somebody that's even more energetic because that's going to elevate you. What are your thoughts about mentoring and coaching and finding your people, finding that support, right? Because either way, no matter how confident we are, I mean, at least I know in my opinion, no matter how confident we are, no matter how sure of ourselves we are, and all the mindset journey and everything that we go through, you still need that support. You still need that feedback and maybe even that, yay, little cheerleaders.
Yeah, I think that mentorship is huge, and I think it's often gate kept in a lot of communities. I think that it is something that is so important to help make the path easier for the next generation of women, the next generation of Latinas, the next generation of minorities. I just think in fields where we are not the front-facing groups, it is your like duty and obligation to help the next group. And like, I think a lot of people find that to be like tasking or a burden, but I think it's really a gift. It's really a privilege because you get to be the reason why the next little girl says, I could do that. I could be that. Or the next little boy says, I could do that or be that. Right. And I think it's really less of a burden and more of a gift. And I think the more that we see it that way, the more we embrace doing it. I also think it really feeds your soul to be able to make somebody else's day. And it could be something as simple as being like, way to go. I'm so proud of you for doing that. Or liking that post or commenting on that post. You know what I mean? Like that's what I always say about social media is it takes such little effort to change somebody else's life. And you could be the reason that somebody's whole day shifts, right? Like I'm sitting here, I'm exhausted with work and I'm like, well, this phone call, this brief moment in time gets to give me, a breath of fresh air, gets to let me talk about the things that I like to talk about, remember why I do the things that I do. And I think all of these are really important. So I think mentorship is huge and you should really look out to the community around you and really look out to, the people that you can help and really make an effort to go and help them. Um, because I think it can really change the world. That's how we can kind of change it is by continuing to help the next group of people.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes we are in that mode where I know me, when I first started my business, I was like, oh, I'm not making a difference. Nobody's listening to me, right? Like, I'm like, why am especially the podcast, I would literally hit record and be like, I don't even know who's listening to the podcast, right? And here we are 4 years in, top 25%, top 15 on iHeart. And, yes, I know, right? We've been on CleoCon, NALA, InfoTrack. We've been on all these stages, and I have to thank the podcast for that because it gave me the confidence. We get fan mail, we get a lot of followers are emailing us and messaging us. And they have no idea how amazing that makes me feel, because sometimes you feel so alone in this social, aspect of it, that you sometimes are like, I mean, is anybody even like listening to me? Like, is anybody even like taking this in? So, I mean, I don't know about you. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm just talking to a camera, or like I'm just, I don't know. Hopefully, I'll change somebody's life. And then all of a sudden, somebody's like, oh my goodness, you made my day, my career. You made me leave my job and do something more. And it's like, that's amazing. I mean, keep me posted. And I always say that. I always follow up with them, and I'm always genuinely wanting to know, what their next steps are and how I can support their journey. And that also gives me more content, right? More inspiration to continue and do this, and really hit home with some of the topics. What has been your favorite, I guess, message or fan mail or something that you've received that maybe even made you cry? Because I have a couple of those.
Yeah, I would say it's the business owners. I would say it's the really small business owners. It's the people making their product out of their home that like leave me voice notes, and it's them like crying after I make the video and just being so grateful that somebody made an effort to help them in any capacity, knowing they're getting nothing from it. Um, and like I've cried listening to them. I actually keep every single note that every business sends me, and I have like a little like a little sack of all of them. And I said to my fiance the other day, I said, I wanna make a poster out of all of these, once I've made it past a year. Um, and just kind of like reminisce on it, because for me it's so amazing. And I never thought that this series would change my life. I never thought that this would be the thing that pushed me into any kind of trajectory. And I'm so grateful for it. And um, I truly do it because I love it and it's a passion project for me. And like those moments I think are what hits me the hardest, because I'm like they're really so grateful, when for me I'm like I'm just kind of like a nobody. Like I'm not really that like big of a deal, you know what I mean? Like I'm just a regular girl. Um Like, I remember when I hit, like, 2K on Instagram, and I was like, "Oh my god, like, this is crazy," because this has all been over the course of less than a year, since September of last year. And, I just hit 5K, and I was like, "How did that happen?" And I'm like, "How did this happen? How did it get to this point?" And then I'm like, "I'm so grateful for all of the people, and I'm so grateful for all of the businesses." Um, but yeah, I think the thing that makes me cry is the little notes that I get sent with the products, because they mean so much to me. And um, it takes a lot to reach out to somebody that you've never met and never met you. And I think I love that personal connection that I get to make with them. And I just never thought that it would be me that could help change somebody else's life.
Oh, I love that. Oh, you just give me the chills. I'm about to cry myself. And I hear you, right? Even though we stick to legal education, and we're not like, I wish I was a little more involved with other things, but right now I'm stressed out to think. But I love that. And one thing I think one of my favorites is that, oh, you provide us with a voice, you provide us with a platform, and you provide us somewhere where we don't feel alone, right? Where it's no longer a sink or swim situation, where we can get information and really, and then with this new book that we're hopefully launching in October, we talk about secondary trauma and how that affects us, and reevaluating these cases and reliving the cases, that can also lead to burnout and anxiety and things like that. So understanding the different facets of us, right? What makes us tick, what makes us, emotional, what makes us angry or fearful or whatever, put a label on it, whatever label you want to put. But I think those are my favorite, when it's like, okay, I'm gonna quit. I'm closing shop. I'm done. Like nobody's listening to me. It's a slow month. We're not making as much money as we were before last month or whatever. And my husband and my family are like, really, Eda, really? Like you've been at this for 7 years. You've been saying you're gonna quit for 7 years. And I was like, nope, this time I am. I'm closing it. I'm not renewing the license. I'm shutting everything down. And then it's so funny because when I'm talking to my coaching clients, they're going through the same process. And it's really, really nice to be like, I've been there. Like I can honestly say, I've been there. I've been in the corner crying, wondering when my next paycheck is going to come, or wondering when my next contract is going to come, or laying off my entire staff because we didn't make enough money that year, or something like that. Like I've been there. I totally understand. And there's nobody else in this world that's going to really understand you trying to build something and be passionate about it, and it not coming out the way you want. But it's like, I think maybe what I was gathering from your story is consistency, right? And persistence. And if we stop and we give up, we'll never know how big it'll be, right? Like if you would have saw the 2000, you're like, oh, okay, this is good. And now it's like at 5,000, and eventually it'll get to 10, 15, and so on and so forth. But that's because you showed up, you showed consistency, you showed value, and people obviously love you. I mean, you're an amazing personality anyway. That's always a bonus. And
Thank
so
you, thank
understand,
you.
but that's always like a bonus, right? When you're just like, you can tell that you're just genuine. And in this world of technology, that's all people want. They want true connection. They want to connect with you. So if you had to tell your 5-year-old self, 5 years ago self, or maybe someone that's just starting out and is in that mindset that I just told you about, maybe give them a little bit of advice and be like that mentor for like the next 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
I think what I would say is let people know that they're seen. I think that's the thing that most everyone craves is to feel seen. And I think that's what I've tried to do with this series, and that's what I've tried to do with my life as a whole, is to let people know that I see them, I hear them, and I might not understand what you're going through. I might not be able to fix what you're going through, but I want you to know that I will do what I can to validate your emotions and to validate where you're at in this moment in time. And I think that is such a powerful tool and such a powerful gift. And I think I didn't I didn't appreciate that 5 years ago. I don't think I've appreciated that for a lot of my life, right? And I think the older you get, the more you realize that that is really such an act of love, is to let other people know that they're seen.
Love that. I love the act of love because it really is like, and we need more of it in this world, and we need to be more united instead of divided, especially now in this new, beginning, I guess I'll say, and not to get too political, but in this new beginning where I feel like everybody's feeding into the frenzy and letting all their emotions come up, and it's dividing us even more. And it's nice to see that there is a community out there that can unite you and that can make you feel welcome. Just find it. That's all you got to do. Just find it. Start looking the other way, and start looking for people that will support you and that will give you that act of love, just like Heather and me, anybody else. We are out there. There's many of us. So Heather, how can
Absolutely.
they contact you? How can they, follow you? How can they join your beautiful presence?
Thank you. So I would say my Instagram is the biggest way. It's my main platform. So it's Heather underscore RXOXO. And I would say if you know of any BIPOC businesses, tell them to DM me, have them reach out to me. I've expanded my series from more than just Latino, and Latinx to BIPOC. Like you said, given today's climate, not to get political, we kind of are all in this together. And I want to do what I can to also promote those voices as well. Um, but yeah, I would say that's the easiest way if you're looking for a mentor or even just a friend. I read all my DMs, so sometimes that's not a great thing, but
No.
a lot of the times it's a good thing. So don't hesitate to DM me, and I'll do what I can to respond because my parents have always said to me like, leave the world better than the way that you found it, and leave any situation better than the way you found it. And I really try to do that in whatever way that I can. So.
I love that. I love you. I love your vibe, everything about you. Thank you so much for being on the Let's Talk Paralegal podcast. And until next time, guys, bye.
Thank you.